A desperate Florida State squad hosts Memphis this Saturday at noon, and Walters is the spot in D.C. to watch the defending ACC champs. Walters has plenty of televisions both inside and outside.
Ready to level up your career? Text DISH to 44043 now to dive into a world of exciting technician opportunities at DISH. From cutting-edge technology to a supportive work environment, DISH offers the perfect platform for your success. Connect with us today to discover how you can be part of a dynamic team driving innovation. Connect today and join the DISH family, where innovation meets opportunity. Text DISH to 44043 to kickstart your journey towards a rewarding career.
Here's Jorge Soler, the pitch. Swing a line drive deep left field toward the corner. Wood giving chase, not going to get to it. It lands on the warning track, bounces over the wall for a double, and Atlanta takes a 1-0 lead. Here's the pitch to Harris. Blasted deep right field. Way back it goes. Cruz looking up for a carom, and there will be none. It is gone into the Nationals bullpen. 5-0 Atlanta. Harris, 10th homer of the season. Second straight game that he's homered against Gore.
And welcome to Nats Chat for Wednesday, September 11th, 2024. Along with MASNsports.com Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman, who is at Nationals Park. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. So my official prediction for the Nats for the 2024 regular season, 82-80, does remain alive. But the Nats now must end this regular season on an 18-game winning streak in order to get to 82-80. Hey, anything is possible after 19-31. But Tuesday evening, a 12-0 loss to the Atlanta Braves at Nationals Park in Game 1 of a 2-game series. The Nats now are 64-80. They must go at least 8-10 over their last 18 games in order to surpass last regular season's record of 71-91. This installment of the Nats Chat podcast brought to us by Capo's Deli. Make sure to check out its location at Nationals Park in section 136 near the Nats bullpen. 14 of the Nats' 80 losses have been shutout losses. 17.5% of the team's losses have been shutout losses. This was a game in which starting pitcher MacKenzie Gore's streak of 3 consecutive good starts came to an end. This was a game in which a Nats position player, Ildemaro Vargas, ended up pitching not good. And this was a game that was a reminder of which team has won each of the last 6 National League East titles, the Braves. Now, they likely will not be winning the NL East this season, but they again are a good team. And Mark, they on Tuesday evening humbled the Nats.
This was about as lopsided as it gets in every possible way. There's no silver linings in this one. Nothing to say, oh, well, hey, this guy looked good or that looked good. No, this was an ugly game all around from the national standpoint. But to be honest, it felt to me like I was genuinely surprised by this result. The Nats have played the Braves very well this year, already clinched the season series against them, no matter what happened in these final 2 games. They've gotten great pitching against them this year, and the Braves, while their pitching has been very good, they're not hitting. And even talking about this with one of the Atlanta writers before the game, we were actually having a serious discussion over, at this moment, which of the 2 lineups would you rather have? Now, as it turned out, the way this game went, no question which of the 2 lineups you'd rather have. But I think it's important to note here that while this game certainly was completely on one side of the equation, that I do think the gap has closed somewhat between the 2 sides. And you hope this is a one-off. They come back and look better on Wednesday, because I think it'd be a shame to end this season feeling like they are that far away from catching the Braves, when I think in a lot of ways they've handled themselves very well this year against them and looked like they can, at least compete with them.
Well, the disappointment with Tuesday evening really has to do with MacKenzie Gore, in addition, of course, to the Nats offense. But you start with Gore. He had been good in each of his last 3 starts, and this had become an encouraging thing in recent weeks, MacKenzie Gore getting back on track. But he on Tuesday evening was not good. He was not close to good. He allowed 7 runs, 2 earned in 3 2/3 innings. He gave up 6 hits, which were a home run, 3 doubles, and 2 singles. He issued 3 walks, a hit by pitch, and a wild pitch. He recorded 3 strikeouts. He overs 3 2/3 innings through 79 pitches, 49 strikes versus 30 balls. Now, just 2 of the 7 runs that Gore allowed were earned thanks to third baseman Jose Tena committing a 1-out fielding error in what ended up being a 4-run third for the Braves, and thanks to Keibert Ruiz committing a 2-out catcher's interference error in what ended up being a 3-run fourth for the Braves. But Gore in that Braves 4-run third allowed 5 consecutive Braves batters to reach base with 2 outs, including giving up 3 doubles. And Gore in that Braves 3-run fourth gave up back-to-back 2-out RBI singles immediately after the Keibert Ruiz catcher's interference error. So yes, the Nats defense for Gore was not good, but also yes, Gore did not respond well to that bad defense.
Well, and all this with 2 outs. Both innings, he had a chance to get out of it with no damage at all, and he could not stop the bleeding. And, this is who we saw at times last year from him, and I thought he was sort of over that once something went wrong, that he could get it back and not endure through those disaster of an inning, and he had 2 of them in this case, all of it with 2 outs. So that part is especially frustrating. He had been really good against the Braves this year. 3 starts against them, 1 run allowed, 1 earned run allowed in all 3 of them, and a great strikeout to walk ratio in those games as well. So it is part of learning as a big league starter. You face the same team 4 times in a season. They're going to start to figure out some things. And it seemed to me like the Braves were a little more aggressive this time against him. 4 of the 5 extra base hits that he gave up came on either the first pitch or the second pitch of an at-bat. So I don't know if that was intentional or he was just leaving them over the plate early in the count, but it felt like they were not letting themselves get deep in the counts and were going right after him. Yes, the defense did not help. He should have been out of that inning, but it's up to you as a big league pitcher to shake that off, go get the outs you need. In his case, just 1 more each inning, and it could have been a totally different story. Instead, it ends up being his worst outing in quite a while.
Gave up a lot of hard contact, too. I mean, these were not El Cheapo hits by the Braves. These were well-hit balls that Gore was giving up. And you look at his numbers now for this regular season, 29 starts. So, he's had basically a full season at this point. ERA of 4.34. The whip now is at 1.52. He is tied with Patrick Corbin for the worst whip among all qualified pitchers in the majors. Yes, 2/5 of the Nats rotation make up the 2 worst qualified pitchers in the sport in terms of whip for this regular season. It's really hard to know what to think about MacKenzie Gore. The talent is so there. The upside is so there. At times he looks so good, but you look at what he's done now for the Nats over his few seasons with them, and it's been really mixed. It's been a lot of up and down, and he's a young pitcher, yeah, and he's still learning, and I think we all understand that. But at some point, you do want to see the step forward. I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on him to be good next season, especially if the Nats are thinking about contending. If they're going to contend next season, you would think that scenario, realistically speaking, includes a big step forward season for MacKenzie Gore. We thought that he was maybe having that season this season. At this point, you can't say that he has done that. Perhaps next season is that season, but that season does need to happen here. At some point, he does need to take that step forward.
Yeah, I agree. You'd love for him to develop into the ace that they would love him to be, but even if he's not that, at least a consistent frontline starting pitcher is what he is supposed to be for this team, and it's really how they've built this thing for the long haul. So at times he has very much looked like that guy. Most of the first half of this season, he absolutely did. Then he went through that awful stretch, but his last 3 starts, and especially the one against the Yankees, you thought, okay, that's the guy. That's who he is. The combination of the stuff and the execution of it and the poise on the mound and all that kind of stuff. And then you have a night like this where you're just thinking, what happened? How did he fall apart so quickly like that? Consistency is the name of the game for him, and he's got to find that. He's a really determined guy. I mean, he cares deeply about how he does. He strives to be better. Even when he does well, he can be hard on himself because he's nitpicking and looking for the things that he didn't do as well as he would have liked. So I don't doubt that he has the desire, the motivation to be the best. He's just got to show that he can actually do that on a consistent basis. And yeah, I agree. If we're going to put together a list of early on, who are the players for whom 2025 is most important, he's on the short list because of the potential, because of what we have seen from him at times, and because truthfully, the Nationals have built a rotation that has him in a prominent position. Again, whether it's number 1 or number 2, whatever that is, he's supposed to be a big part of this moving forward. And if he's not, they're going to have to adjust and find that from someone else.
I mean, even if the Nats do sign a top-line starting pitcher this offseason in free agency, they're not going to sign more than one of those guys if you're being realistic about things. So even if the Nats did say sign Corbin Burnes this offseason, just to say, okay, so he becomes your quote-unquote ace, although he lately has not pitched like an ace, but that's another conversation. But at that point, you still need a really good number 2. Like, again, if you're thinking about making the postseason next season, you need a really good number 2. You need a solid at least number 3. Gore would have to fit into one of those spots. I mean, maybe Jake Irvin is your number 2, but Gore's got to be one of those guys. You can't just say, well, Mitchell Parker or DJ Hurst. You can't count on that. And who the heck knows with Cade Cavalli at this point? So, yeah, like there is a pressure on Gore to really take that step forward for next season. Again, if in fact the Nats have designs on contending for a postseason spot.
Yeah, I think it's him and Jake Irvin in one order or the other. I think the way it's designed to be is that Gore is ahead of Irvin, although we've seen at times this year where Irvin has been the better pitcher or the more consistent pitcher, but they both have to show a level of consistency that they just have not done yet. Now, the ceiling on Gore is much higher. He was the top first-round pick. He was one of the centerpieces of the Juan Soto trade. He is supposed to be the guy. And it's up to him now to take that step. And, you know, I don't want to give up on him. I think it's way too soon for that. He's still really young. He's still really talented. We've seen plenty of pitchers who take time to develop at the big league level. And I just keep pointing to his good starts are really, really good. And he's had a decent number of them in the big leagues. It's not like we're just talking about a couple of scattered outings over 2 seasons. There have been a good number of them each of these 2 seasons. It's just the bad starts overshadow sometimes all the good stuff that he does, and he's got to learn how to avoid those.
And knock on wood, he has stayed healthy. He has been durable. The Nats have done a good job with him in that regard. He himself has done a good job keeping himself healthy, and that, I think, is an underrated positive here. He's staying healthy. He's accumulating these experiences, and maybe it does all come together for him next season.
This episode of Nats Chat is brought to you by Capo's Deli. Capo's Deli is at Nationals Park in Section 136 in the outfield. This weekend, just before Friday night's rainout, Capo's dropped off dinner for my family, and my mother-in-law couldn't stop raving about the Caprese sub. Capo's has locations all over the DMV, in Alexandria, Tyson's Corner, Potomac, Shaw, Western Market, and of course, Nationals Park.
Hey, Al Galdi here to tell you about the latest great offer from Window Nation for listeners of the Nats Chat podcast. 2 free windows for every 2 windows that you buy, plus pay nothing with no interest for 2 full years. If you have been thinking about getting new windows, now is the time. Get with Window Nation, 866-90Nation or windownation.com, and tell Window Nation that you want the deal that you heard about from Al Galdi on the Nats Chat podcast. September has arrived. A great time to replace your old inefficient windows with energy-efficient windows from Window Nation. You can get a free, no-obligation quote from Window Nation right now. Contacting Window Nation and seeing what new Window Nation windows would cost you costs you nothing, obligates you to nothing. 866-90Nation or windownation.com, and take advantage of the great offer for listeners of the Nats Chat podcast. 2 free windows for every 2 windows that you buy, plus pay nothing with no interest for 2 full years. 866-90Nation or windownation.com. That's 866-90Nation or windownation.com, and tell Window Nation that Al Galdi sent you.
Are you looking for tickets to an upcoming event? That's why you should download the Game Time app. Create an account and use code NATSCHAT for $20 off your first purchase. You get cheaper tickets, and it helps the podcast a bit. Sounds like a smooth 6-4-3 double play. Again, create an account and redeem the code NATSCHAT for $20 off. Terms apply. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
Here's the wind and the pitch. Eephus pitch hit high in the air to right field. Back on it is Cruz at the warning track at the wall, and it's gone. That one lands about 7 rows deep into section 140, up above and to the left of the Nationals bullpen in right field. Second home run of the game for Harris, his 11th of the year, RBI number 37. And it's now Atlanta 12 and Washington nothing.
When it came to Nats relief pitching in this 12-0 loss to the Braves on Tuesday evening, 4 Nats relievers and, yes, a position player combined to allow 5 runs in 5 1/3 innings as we once again saw Ildemaro Vargas take the mound. Jacob Barnes allowed 1 run in 2/3 of an inning. He faced 4 batters but got just 2 outs, including giving up a 1-out first pitch opposite field solo homer by Orlando Arcia to right center field in the top of the 5th for an 8-0 Braves lead. Joe LaSorsa allowed 2 runs in 1 2/3 innings. He in the top of the 6th gave up a 2-out 2-run homer by Sean Murphy to left field for a 10-0 Braves lead, despite LaSorsa having had Murphy down in the count at 1.02. Zach Brixey tossed the scoreless top of the 7th. Tanner Rainey in the top of the 8th allowed a run on a leadoff walk and then 3 consecutive singles. He allowed each of the first 4 batters he faced to reach base. He ended the inning through 25 pitches. And then we did get the Ildemaro Vargas pitching show. He in the top of the 9th allowed a run as he gave up a leadoff homer by Michael Harris II to right field for a 12-0 Braves lead. The homer per StatCast went a projected 414 feet and came on a 38.4 mile per hour eephus pitch by Ildemaro Vargas. If you're wondering, boy, we've seen Vargas pitch at least a decent amount in recent years. You're right. 5th pitching appearance for Ildemaro Vargas over these last 3 regular seasons with the Nats. And, you know, I've said this to you before. It's funny the first or second time. It's not funny the 5th time. And when I see a homer like that by Harris, I don't know, like I have conflicting feelings. On the one hand, it's funny, it's entertaining, like you see this eephus pitch and Harris clobbers it. On the other hand, it's amateur hour. That's a clownish moment for you as a major league franchise, having a position player pitch and giving up a home run in that fashion. I know that Vargas is doing what he can. He's not trying to give up the homer, but I don't know. That's just a bad look when you have something like that happen. And Harris just destroying that pitch, that was a low moment in this game and really in this season.
If it was the first time we'd ever seen him do this, you'd say, okay, yeah, that was kind of a moment of levity there in an otherwise awful game. The problem, as you said, is the 5th time we've seen him do this in 3 seasons. Now, to his credit, he's only given up 2 runs in 5 appearances, each on a solo homer, and that's it. He's done well otherwise. He was helped out quite a bit by a truly impressive 4-6-3 double play from Darren Baker and Nasim Nunez. Good to see them get into the game at the end there. But, you know, I remember not that long ago when the position player pitching was somebody like Adam Dunn, Adam LaRoche, a guy near the end of their career who was known for something else and just really wanted to pitch all along. And you finally got to a point that you said, okay, tonight's the night, we're going to let you do it. And it turned into a little more of an event, and it was a once-in-a-lifetime thing. They were going to do it once. They were never going to do it again. Usually happened late in their career, and people got a good laugh out of it. And it seems like now, I know MLB's tried to put a bit of a halt to it, but it still happens with a little too much regularity. And I think that managers are so worried about anybody of consequence getting hurt that they put the utility guy out there and they tell them, don't try to throw it hard, just don't hurt yourself. And that's why you get these 38-mile-an-hour eephus pitches. It's like, what are we doing here? I know it's not what a lot of people would agree with. I'd rather see a 10-run forfeit rule and just end the game than sometimes doing these position player pitching, especially when it's the same guys that we've seen before. They're not really going out there and trying their best. They're just going out there trying not to get hurt and get 3 outs.
It's non-competitive baseball. And it's one of those things where, again, like there is an aspect of humor to it. And look, at the end of the day, MLB is entertainment. So if you're entertained by it, you know, it's not the end of the world. This isn't church, okay? Like you're allowed to laugh at things that happen in MLB, but it's not what you call like baseball at the highest level, which is what MLB is supposed to be. And of course, this also is a function of here you are getting blown out, and Davey Martinez has to use 5 different guys in terms of relief pitching in this game. This is a game that screamed for someone to come in relief of MacKenzie Gore and consume multiple innings. And instead, you had relievers who could not get outs. Zach Brixey did toss a scoreless inning. I don't know why he couldn't have maybe at least started another inning, but we did not see that. The Nats on Tuesday evening began a stretch of 13 consecutive days without a scheduled off day. This was not a game in which you wanted to be using a bunch of relievers, and yet Davey Martinez ended up doing that even with Ildemaro Vargas pitching.
And here's the contrast for you. The Braves, their starting pitchers out after one inning, Reynaldo Lopez due to injury. Who do they use after that? 3 guys get through the rest of the game. 2 different guys go 3 innings apiece, and then the last one finishes it out for them. And I get it. You're ahead by a bunch. The Nats were doing nothing offensively, so their pitch counts were low. You could keep sending them out there. The Nats just don't even have anybody who can do that in their bullpen. And I do think in a weird way, once they are ready to be more competitive and win, I think they need a legit long man in the bullpen. You think that some of their better teams, they had guys who could do that. A Craig Stammen would do it for them for quite a while. Way back in the day, Miguel Batista, Miss Iowa, could do it. The guy who you could just put out there and say, give us 50 pitches as far as you can go. Help us take the load off somebody else or multiple somebody else's, and don't leave us in a position where we have to throw a position player at the end of the game because we've burned up everybody else in the bullpen. I actually think that's a valuable part of a good bullpen, and they do not have that. And I think it may be something they actually have to try to find, whether it's internally or externally. That can be a valuable spot in an 8-man bullpen over the course of a season.
It's really funny when you think about it. Like, every potential option for that long man has faltered in some way with what has happened this season. Like, for a while, we thought maybe Yohan Adon could be that guy. Well, he's on the 15-day injured list with a right shoulder / bicep strain. Going into the season, we thought by now a Patrick Corbin or a Trevor Williams could be that guy pitching out of the bullpen. That has not materialized. Williams, of course, getting injured, and Corbin still being in the rotation due to things like Cade Cavalli not being ready and Josiah Gray and Trevor Williams being injured. And, this may sound kind of odd. I still think about Mason Thompson. Remember the thinking, the talking of, hey, we're going to try to lengthen Mason Thompson, and maybe he can become a long man, maybe even make an occasional start for us. Mason Thompson, of course, has been out for the entirety of this season due to Tommy John surgery. Now, look, Thompson was very erratic, so who knows what he would have done this season had he been healthy. But you think about like what could have been with the Nats bullpen, what could have been with a Mason Thompson this season. And all of these things have come together for this exact scenario in which the Nats have not had a long man really at any point in this season. That's pretty remarkable when you think about it.
Yeah, it 100% is. And it makes me now think of something that we haven't really discussed a whole lot. Trevor Williams. He threw 3 innings in a rehab assignment on Tuesday at Harrisburg. The plan, as long as he doesn't have any setbacks, is for him to throw another one on Sunday. And then I think they're going to activate him and put him in the rotation to close out the season.
I said it'd be nice to see him back on the mound for us before the season's over. So we're going to try to build him up for that.
The reason for that is less about Williams and more about giving the other young starters a little extra rest, maybe go to a 6-man rotation to close out the year. They don't want to shut anybody down. They want to let them finish out the year without, overworking them too much. But I think there may need to be a discussion about re-signing Trevor Williams. If he looks okay whenever he gets back here and he's agreeable to it, I think there's a case to be made for re-signing him for the purpose of being that long man, but also a swing man if something goes wrong, who could step into the rotation if needed. He's done it before. He's been successful at that. For the first 2 months of the season, he looked really good, and they were holding him to 5 innings anyways. So maybe it's a little bit of a gamble, given how bad he was the year before and the fact that he was hurt so much of this year. But if he comes back and looks okay, I think that's a discussion to have, that could actually be the guy who fits the profile of what we're talking about here. And not just because they have to have someone, but somebody who could really help a team and a pitching staff when you are trying to win.
You got to think he'd be open to it. I mean, I don't know how much of a market he's going to have given that he's coming off this injury. And you got to think that it's not going to cost a ton to re-sign him if, in fact, you want to re-sign him.
For those interested in learning a new language, whether it be Spanish, French, or something else, check out Babbel. Babbel's 10-minute lessons are quick and handcrafted by over 200 language experts, ready to get you talking about your new language in just 3 weeks, because talking is the key to really knowing any language. Designed by real people for having real conversations, Babbel gets you talking. With over 16 million subscriptions sold, Babbel's 14 award-winning language courses are backed by a 20-day money-back guarantee, so no pressure. Here's a special limited-time deal for our listeners right now. Get up to 60% off your Babbel subscription, but only for Nats Chat listeners at babbel.com/natschat. Get up to 60% off babbel.com/natschat. Spelled BABBEL.com/natschat. Rules and restrictions may apply.
What's up, everybody? It's Heisman Trophy winner Matt Leinart. I've got a podcast called Throwbacks with actor Jay Farrar, where we'll be talking all things sports, but also so much more. We'll give you the behind-the-scenes stories from my days as the quarterback on an iconic college football team to Jerry's days as a star on an iconic TV series. So subscribe to Throwbacks wherever you download your podcasts and follow us on all social media at Throwback Show.
Introducing Zaxby's new chicken finger tacos. One with pico and creamy chipotle ranch, and the other with bacon and avocado ranch. Chicken expert since 1990. Taco expert since now. Woo, saucy. Zaxby's.
Now the batter, Ramon Laureano, and the pitch is blasted to left center field. Way back it goes. No one's going to get this one, and this one's going to bounce off the top of the fence and stay in play. 2 runs will score. Laureano at second with a double, and it's 4-0 Atlanta. All these runs unearned. Ozuna and Olsen score. Laureano with a 2-run double and a huge inning after the error opened the door.
So the Nats offense in this 12-0 loss to the Braves on Tuesday evening. No runs, a mere 3 hits, although each hit was a double. So, hey, there was that. 3 walks, 0 for 6 with runners in scoring position. And the Nats offense was bad despite what Mark hit on earlier, the Braves starting pitcher, former Nats prospect Reynaldo Lopez, leaving the game after 1 inning due to right shoulder tightness. The Nats in no way ended up benefiting from that. 2 of the Nats' 3 doubles in the game came from one man, Jose Tena. He is the Nats starting third baseman and number 5 batter. Went 2 for 4 with 2 doubles. He did commit the fielding error in the Braves' 4-run third, but Tena in the bottom of the 4th, a 2-out full count double to right field, and Tena in the bottom of the 9th, a 1-out opposite field ground rule double off the left center field warning track on a 1-2 pitch. So the Nats got Tena, and they're trading of outfielder Lane Thomas to the Cleveland Guardians for 3 prospects on July 29th. Tena has been at the major league level for the Nats since August 10th. He since then has not been good defensively, but he has been good offensively. 97 plate appearances, OPS of 775. I think it's interesting with Tena because we talk about, okay, next season Brady House is going to be the Nats' regular third baseman at some point. Do the Nats this offseason need to sign someone to hold things down at third base until House is promoted to the majors, or can Tena maybe possibly be that guy? The offense says yes. The defense, though, says no. His defense is a problem, but he's showing that he can hit.
This is 8 errors in 24 games with the Nationals. That is atrocious. And even the plays he makes very often do not look comfortable out there. He really does not look like a big league third baseman. As to that question about how they proceed here, I think it really boils down to how close do they think Brady House is at the end of the season. They think he's on the cusp, and they're just biding their time, and as you've pointed out, maybe trying to delay his free agency clock so that he doesn't end up on the same calendar as James Wood and Dylan Cruz, and you're maybe only talking about a month of him in the minor leagues to start the season. Then I think you proceed with Tena. Hope he can work on some stuff in the offseason, become halfway reliable at third base, and continue to hit for you, with the understanding that that's a temporary solution and that he's going to be replaced by Brady House sooner rather than later. If, however, you have concerns about House and think it could be half a season until he's up, or you don't even know once he comes up, you're not so sure that he's even going to be up for it and might have to be somebody who goes up and down, a la Trey Lipscomb did this year, then I think you may have to look at this a little bit differently. But I don't think that should be a priority for them this winter. They need to find out at some point here if Brady House is the guy. I think they know that. I think that's the intention. You may just need somebody to hold down the fort for a few weeks at the beginning of the year. And as hard as it's been to watch at times, I think Tena's done enough offensively to suggest that he should at least be the interim third baseman until Brady House gets the shot.
The Nats' other double in the game came from James Wood. He is the Nats' starting left fielder and number 2 batter, went 1 for 4 with a double. Wood in the bottom of the first, a 1-out opposite field double to left field despite having been down in the count at 1.02. We also saw more StatCast excellence from James Wood in this game. Bottom of the 6th, a leadoff lineout that per StatCast had an exit velocity of 111.4 miles per hour, tied for the highest exit velocity of the game. Dylan Cruz, he is the Nats starting right fielder and number 7 batter, 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts, though he in the bottom of the second, a 1-out lineout that per StatCast had an exit velocity of 107.2 miles per hour, 4th highest exit velocity of the game. But I tell you, watching this game, impossible not to think about the Nats' lack of home runs. The Braves in this game out-homer the Nats 4-0. The Braves for this regular season now 186 home runs. The Nats all the way down at 120. That is next to last in the majors. Only the major league worst Chicago White Sox have hit fewer home runs than the Nats have. And, you know, we've talked about this many times. This isn't new ground that we're about to cover. But when I think about the Nats next season, and again, this notion of them contending, if you just drop in like 40 more homers, 50 more homers, like if the Nats next season at this time could have like 170, 180 homers, that by itself could put the Nats into contention. Like that one thing, just them hitting more homers, whether they come from Wood and Cruz and House or free agent acquisition or CJ Abrams or whoever, just that one thing would be so big. It's not easy to do, I understand that, but man, that really stood out watching this game. The Braves hit homers, the Nats do not.
I actually think it's quite doable, and I think the path to get there is not that complicated. I think they need one significant acquisition this winter, preferably a first baseman, somebody who you could hit 25 to 30 home runs for you. And then I think the rest is up to the young guys who you believe are going to take the next step. You have a full season of James Wood, a full season of Dylan Cruz. We've seen what CJ Abrams and Keibert Ruiz and Luis Garcia, these guys can hit 20 plus homers in the big leagues over a season. You do all that and add one good solid power bat in the middle of your lineup, I think it is absolutely doable. Now, there's no guarantee. You can't just say you're going to hit more home runs. You have to actually go out and do it. But I don't think it's going to require that much effort on their part to put together a lineup with at least the potential to be a much better power hitting team.
And, nothing perfectly correlates to winning, but it is interesting. When you look at the top teams in the majors in homers, so many of them are teams that right now are in postseason contention. Like, it's really hard to contend for the playoffs and not hit homers at a pretty high rate. And that obviously has been an issue for the Nats these last few seasons. You can hit us up on X at Nats_chat. You can email the podcast, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. We always enjoy hearing from you. This installment of the Nats Chat Podcast brought to you by Capo's Deli. Make sure to check out its location at Nationals Park in section 136 near the Nats bullpen. Game 2 for the Nats against the Braves at Nationals Park Wednesday evening at 6:45. Jake Irvin will be the Nats starting pitcher. You can find us on our website, natschatpodcast.com, at which you can purchase a Nats Chat podcast t-shirt. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. We thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat Podcast.
It's batter up around the nation. In Washington, Connie Mack appears first as a manager with manager Bucky Harris, then as an owner with owner Clark Griffith and Vice President Barkley. This young trio, whose ages total 240 years, raised the flag on the Philadelphia Athletics Washington Senators opener. President Truman genially poses for the home team's camera bugs before demonstrating his skill as a switch pitcher. Also on hand are Mrs. Truman and Margaret, who fears rain, but her worries are taken care of by an umbrella and a Washington opening victory.